and 8-year-old, 9-year-old.
If you go back and you look at the general work requirements, it's age 6. We move it to 7 with this bill.
And I don't know how we, I don't know how we provide children a better future by providing them less food and nutrition, you know, as they're growing up. I mean, I
don't know how we guarantee a better future if we do everything we can to keep children stuck in intergenerational poverty.
Well, first of all, a lot of people who are on SNAP, you know, who have been on SNAP, have gone on to be very successful people. This kind of stigmatization that if you're on SNAP, that somehow you're going to always be stuck in poverty is just not the reality. I'll go to Ms. Craig and then to Ms. Moore.
Mr. Chairman, I'm offended by your last statement. You know, my own mother was a single mom who was going to school at night to get her teaching degree for 9 years to become a teacher. Yep, she did it, but under the scenario we just outlined, my mom would no longer be eligible for benefits once I turned 7 years old because my mom is going to school, not able to work during 80 hours a month. That is the truth, and you know it. And look, 11 million people, according to the Center on Budget and Policy, including 4 million children, live in households that would be at risk of losing these benefits if this bill passes.
Well, and if I can, I just say, you read the bill, it's an average of 80 hours a month. That's 20 hours a week. Doesn't have to be 20 hours. It just has to be an average of 80 over a month. And it is work. And like the ranking member said, approximately 27% of SNAP recipients are working today already, but they're living in poverty. But it can be volunteer work, but it also, your mom would qualify because she was actually getting education, and that is a qualifier for
not 80 hours
SNAP
a week,
benefits.
not 80 hours a month.
And let me just we throw around these numbers, 13 million people lose their health care, so many, 5 million people lose their food assistance benefits. And I worry sometimes that there are people in this chamber, who look at those numbers and kind of view them as statistics and fail to appreciate kind of the human element behind them. One of the things that I've learned in this job is that people's lives are complicated. And one glove doesn't fit all. And as much as we want to, say that this should apply to everybody or this should apply to everybody and it is complicated. And my experience, especially with a lot of single parents raising kids, they want to be good parents because that's the best thing they can do to make sure their kids have a bright future. And to have to add on to that now, if I don't meet this new requirement, I will lose my SNAP benefit, and there'll be less food in the house. I don't understand why this is something that my Republican friends feel that they have to do. But I mean, Ms. Moore.
Mr. Ranking Member, we can also say, I mean, that has been a quandary of certain folks in certain situations. You're right. It's complex. People have very different lives.
What happens if child care is not available?
And that is why the state has and will retain flexibility with waivers to be able to meet those individual needs. We just need to make sure that the states administer those programs according to the intent of Congress.
Well, lots of luck with that. And I would just, again, say, I think a better way to do it is to not make these cuts and maybe not give tax breaks to billionaires. But Ms. Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I do appreciate this vigorous discussion. As a co-chair of the bipartisan foster youth program here in Congress, I can tell you that leaving a 7-year-old at home while the parent goes to work, there's a name for that. It's called child abuse and neglect. That'll get you a case. And I know people who have had their children removed from their homes for that very reason. They were at work, couldn't afford child care, and left their child at home. Let me just say this. As a survivor of childhood sexual assault, I guarantee you that Chester the molester is going to know that your child is at home on a regular basis while you're out working to meet these work requirements. And they will find an opportunity to pretend that your mom told them to come by, or you've seen them, or come on, go to the store with me. And if you're 7 years old, you're vulnerable. I can tell you that if the house catches on fire while that 7-year-old is in the house because they tried to make themselves some chicken nuggets and turn the stove on, that is going to be a little bit of a problem. I also want to mention another thing about this 80 hours. I think this 80 hours is very interesting. I remember my daughter once working for a daycare center, and I mean, the minute she hit that 19th hour, no matter how busy they were, they sent her home because they didn't want to incur payroll tax charges. There's employers make decisions that low-wage people, low-income people, people that you're targeting, don't have any choice about it. You're working in a fast food restaurant, they're not going to let you work 40 hours a week, so they have to pay workman's comp. They're not going to let you work 20 hours a week in order to do it. They're dumb if they do, because they don't. The whole point is to have people churning in and out. So I don't want to, this is, I so appreciate my colleagues here from the Ag Committee that have greater information about this particular part of the bill, but I just could not let it pass without talking. So if you want to change anything, this 7-year-old at home alone, it's a name for it: child abuse and neglect. Thank you. You're back.
I just want to ask a few.
We're continuing to listen in as the House rules.